Hi guys, my name is Onyinye and I'm a trans and lesbian fibre artist who does a lot of things. I'm already choosing before I even get started on this video, but since it's already in the title, I'm just gonna get straight into it. I ran my first ever half marathon. The half marathon that I've been talking about and training for ages. Now, for those of you who've never seen me before, I've been fundraising for my top surgery for over a year now. The link is down below, by the way, if you want to donate. I decided to run a half marathon to help me fundraise for it, and on the 4th of January I had that race. Here is the medal that I got. I think it's a really cool medal. And I just wanted to take some time to talk to you guys about how the race went and just, I guess, recap and also share how much money I raised from the half marathon. So I decided to run the half marathon last year in August. I've been posting about my top surgery and sharing my link for nearly a year at that point, and people had been really generous and really kind, and I'd gotten a lot of donations, but honestly I just really hated asking for help, and I still do. It makes me really uncomfortable and I hate having to rely on people and having no choice but to ask for help. I don't think I've really talked about this, but it took me a while to set up the GoFundMe and even start sharing it, and asking for help was the main reason. It's just not something that I enjoy doing. So I found it really difficult promoting the GoFundMe and making videos, saying, please help me get this surgery, I need it. I don't know, it's just been hard. Also, this is not a knit and talk video, so I'm just playing with this medal. I was making that jumper that I've been working on for a few months, and I actually finished it last week or the beginning of this week. So I don't have anything to work on for this video, so I'm just messing around with this medal. Anyway, I thought that doing something to help fundraise might make it easier for me because, one, I could not feel so guilty about it because I was technically working for the money, and two, it would give me something to use to talk about donations rather than to just have to ask to donate all the time. I don't know, it just felt nicer for me doing it that way. I was thinking about the different things that I could do for the actual fundraiser and just looking at loads of lists online. And I like being active, I always like sports and I like working out, so I thought, why not run a race? I didn't want to run a full marathon because at the time the longest I'd run was 12 kilometers, and I don't know, it just felt like a lot of pressure to put on myself. So a half marathon felt like a happy medium where I was still pushing myself, but I wasn't putting loads of expectations on myself and making it harder than it needed to be. I started training for it in August, and I would just record videos of my runs and post them to get the word out, let people know what I was doing and to ask them to donate if they could. I ran 3 times a week and I posted those videos to TikTok and Instagram, and I did post some to YouTube, but not really consistently. At the time that I started, I hadn't run for about a year, so it was a bit of an adjustment going from doing that to running regularly and running 3 times a week. But for me, the hardest thing was actually posting the runs. I went a little more into depth about it in my perfectionism video, but essentially I just found it hard to have to post those runs, including the ones that I was struggling, and also then ask people to donate. I don't know how to explain it mentally, because I really don't like it just feels like a really vulnerable position for me, asking for help. And then I was also putting myself in a vulnerable position, showing times when runs didn't go that well and talking about the difficulties that I found when I was running. So it just felt like a lot, I think, being visible in that way. It was also really frustrating at that time because my videos started getting pushed out a lot less than they used to, both on TikTok and Instagram. So I had a lot less people seeing the videos than I initially expected. So when I was posting the videos, a lot of the time I just felt like I was talking to myself. And when I was editing the videos and doing the voiceovers, sometimes I just think to myself, who am I even doing this for? Who am I speaking to right now? But even though my videos were getting so little views, I noticed that I would see the same people in my comments cheering me on, and just seeing those familiar names and familiar profile pictures was really nice. It kind of just reminded me that actually people were keeping up with me and people were cheering me on and people were wanting me to do well, and that made it a lot easier, I think. Yeah, it really meant a lot to me. My original race was in October, but I ended up moving it to the beginning of January because I just missed too many runs. I lost a family member and I was struggling with how it felt posting the runs and just being a perfectionist in general. I kind of self-sabotaged myself for a lot of that, to be honest. All of that just mixed together and I was having so much anxiety around my runs, and I think I just psyched myself out. And I was also having problems with my legs on and off. I really didn't want to move it, but it ended up being the best thing that I did because it really allowed me to reevaluate my approach to everything, and it took a lot of weight off my shoulders because it meant that I could deal with some personal stuff that was going on. Anyways, fast forward to a few weeks before the race. It's the Christmas holidays and I'm staying with my girlfriend's family. The plan is to just keep training and I'm actually really looking forward to it. Now, I've been having these problems with my calves. It wasn't shin splints because I actually really struggled with them when I first started training for the half marathon, but they kind of just stopped and I didn't really deal with them anymore. So I knew what shin splints felt like because I'd really struggled with them, and it wasn't shin splints. It was definitely problems with my calves. I would get this localized pain in my calf and I would feel it with every single step and it just really hurt. It kind of came and went and came and went, and I would notice the pain when I was running, but if it wasn't too bad I would just carry on running. But then I'd feel it afterwards when I was just walking, and eventually I'd end up having to miss runs because it was just too painful. But then after that break, I would go back to running for a bit and it would be fine, and the cycle just kept repeating. I think at least once I took a week off running just to see if it would stop it from happening. Anyway, I think it's about 2 weeks away from the race now, maybe less. I go on the run and immediately the pain is really bad. I really just try and push through it, but by the time I've done 1 kilometer, I'm limping and I just can't keep running. And afterwards, when I'm walking, I'm trying really hard not to noticeably limp. When I was searching online, I was seeing people talk about the HOP test, I was seeing people talk about stress reactions, stress fractures, but there was no way I was going to be able to see a GP within 2 weeks, especially in a city I don't live in. So I decided not to run until the race and just get it checked on afterwards. In the time leading up to the race, I just tried really hard not to panic about whether or not I'd actually be able to finish it. I just tried to focus on relaxing, resting. I did some compresses because I saw people online say that it helped. I was just really annoyed with myself because I wish I'd got it checked out sooner. I think I just always assumed that it was just regular soreness that comes from running. Like, you just get aches eventually because you're doing an exercise that puts a lot of load on your legs. I really just thought that if I kept on taking breaks, I would eventually stop having the problem. And with how annoying it is to see a doctor nowadays, where they're just basically trying to convince you that there's nothing wrong, it just felt like there was no point in me going to see the GP. It was only after I kept on having the issue and it just kept on coming back that I thought, okay, maybe this is something I should go see someone about. And then by then, I've already got a race in like 2 weeks. By the way, this isn't me saying it actually is anything serious. I haven't seen the doctor yet. My appointment is coming up in a few weeks. But even if I had just gone and they told me it's nothing, you know, just stop running for 4 weeks and then it'll be fine, I would have done that, and I would have done that a lot earlier, and then I wouldn't have had to deal with the problem so close to the race. But it's okay, there's nothing I can do about it now. So let's flash forward to the day of the race. My leg is definitely a lot better than it was the last time I tried to run. The pain was still there, but I was barely limping at that point. But I knew that that would all come back once I started running. So I just told myself, forget your time goal, forget pacing, forget all of that. I knew that I was still hurt, and I knew that I was gonna have to run while in pain and just push through it, because there was no way that I wasn't gonna finish the race. And in order to do that, I just needed to completely forget about time. I actually ended up not even checking my time afterwards. And I'm already a slow runner, so I was just telling myself, this is about to be the slowest and the furthest you've ever run, so just deal with it. When I had first booked the race for October, I would have been in my flat and I would have traveled from my flat to the park. But now I was in Kent and I didn't really think about that when I rescheduled the race for January. The journey to the park was about 2.5 hours, I think. Maybe more, maybe less, I don't know, I can't remember. But it was a really long journey. And weirdly enough, I felt more nervous leading up to it than I did on the day. I actually felt quite excited on the day. I think because I've been working towards this for a while and I was just excited to see everything come together. I had also just kind of accepted that it would really hurt. And I know if it had been any other time, it wouldn't have been a good idea to run when I knew I was in that much pain. But there was just no way I was pushing that race back at all. And there's almost a sense of calm that comes from knowing you have no choice and that you just kind of have to go and get shit done, at least for me. I was starting to get nervous when we got to the park. It was really busy and I think it was just a lot for me, especially because it was my first race. I did my stretches just in like a patch of grass I found, left my girlfriend at the spectator area and then walked to the start line. It was such a long walk from the spectator area to the start line, like it just made me more nervous. I'm the type of person that when I'm stressed or when I'm worrying about something, I just sort of go on autopilot and just check out of my surroundings. So I was just staring straight ahead, waiting for like all of the talking to be done and for all of the paces to be announced and, you know, take their places. There were these two lovely ladies next to me and one of them just out of the blue told me that I looked really cool and she was asking me about whether my piercings hurt, and she also told me that she wanted to get a lip piercing but she thought that her children would tell her to take it out. It was nice because it just kind of brought me back to my body and back into my surroundings for a bit, and then we started running. The race was a lapped run. I think they said in total it was 8.75 laps for the whole race. And like with any other race, you know, there were paces and we were all told to line up in terms of how fast we were, but people quickly overtook from behind because it was a lapped race. Honestly, I found it really overwhelming. I had my headphones on and, you know, noise cancelling was on and it's pretty good on my headphones, but it was just hard to relax with people constantly coming from behind me, at least in the first half of the race. The pain started instantly and honestly, it was even worse than I expected it was going to be. It was just so hard to get into a proper stride and, you know, the rhythm that you get into when you're running, it was just not happening for me. And I definitely started off way too fast, but it was also just impossible to slow down. I think just because you're running with a lot of people who are faster, people who are slower. It's just hard to be only in your body because you've got loads of people around you who are also running. So I think the start of the race was just all over the place for me. And just a side note, I'm really not trying to be super negative or anything. I'm just kind of sharing my experience. The race was one of the hardest things I've ever done in my life and I was just in a lot of pain and I was limping. So yeah, that's why I have a lot of stuff to say that sounds negative. The first half of the race was definitely the hardest because it was the busiest. Not just because of the faster runners overtaking. It was so crazy, like there were people sprinting, but also because there were a lot of spectators, which is really good for morale, and I definitely did find that nice at some parts. But it's not so good when you're really overstimulated and you're in pain. I spent the whole of the race texting my girlfriend, complaining about how much it hurt. In the second half, the majority of the fastest runners had finished and there was less overtaking, which made things easier. I had also gotten into a bit more of a stride and was walking at regular intervals, which made things easier for my calf. It was a really good thing that things were getting easier at that point because I had been messaging my girlfriend about my leg and all before that she had been pushing me and, you know, reminding me of how proud I would be afterwards and how I could definitely do it, so I should just do it. You know, all the stuff that you're supposed to say to motivate someone. But then she had a moment of weakness because she was worried about me and she asked me whether I was sure I shouldn't just stop since I was in so much pain and it didn't seem to be getting any easier. But at that point, I was less than a kilometer away from halfway and I just thought, you know, I've been at it for ages. There's nowhere I'm stopping now, I'm basically halfway. Who knows what would have happened if she asked me that question a few kilometers earlier. So yeah, the first half was the hardest and I'd say from the 11th kilometer to like the 16th, 17th, things got easier. It was still really hard because everything hurt, but it was a pain that I could see myself pushing through. I had to use the toilet and those portaloos were horrific. It was the most dehumanizing experience of my life, but let's move on. The last 4 kilometers was so hard. It felt so slow and it just felt like it was never ending. The majority of people had finished their race at that point, which was really demoralizing. And I think just because I was so close to the end, I just wanted it to be over and done with. Again, it being a lapped course really didn't help because it just felt like it was going on and on and on and on forever. It was so weird as well because I had pressed play on the race from the Runner app. So I was tracking my race, I was recording my race on my watch. But then according to my watch, I finished the race 1 kilometer before, at least 1 kilometer before I got to the part of the track where you turn off to go to the finish line. So my watch told me I'd finished. I apparently did the distance at least a whole kilometer before I turned off to go to the finish line, which was just so weird. I guess because it can't exactly be super accurate, because if you run to the inside of the track, you're running like slightly less than someone who's running on the outside. So I do see how that happened, but it was kind of annoying when I was actually running the race. But even worse was when I had turned off to go to the finish line. I thought that the finish line was right in front of me. So in my mind, I'm like, okay, I have 100 meters, 200 meters left. Let me just sprint it like I always do. At the end of your runs, you just sprint it. But it turns out I wasn't running to a finish line. I was running to an actual track, 400-meter track, and I still had to run at half of that, I think, before I got to the finish line. But at that point, I had already sprinted 200 meters and I was absolutely finished. I had nothing left in me. I was just exhausted. I honestly could have screamed at that point, because I thought I had finished and I really hadn't. Even though it wasn't that long of a distance left, I'd been pushing and I'd been just using all of my energy. It was really annoying and it was really frustrating. I generally felt like I was gonna drop at that moment. Thankfully, there was a volunteer that I had seen a few times on the race. I think he was with one of the faster pace groups. He came and joined me for the last bit and we just kind of chatted while we ran the end of it. He asked how I found it and I said that it was my first race and it was really hard because I was injured. And at that moment, he actually shouted to everyone that it was my first race and that I was hurt, and so everyone cheered and it was really nice. And yeah, by that point we were at the finish line. My girlfriend was waiting for me and she told me that she almost cried watching me. And then I started tearing up and it just felt so good to finally be finished. They gave me a bunch of stuff after the race, like alcohol-free beer, snacks like flapjack, things like that, including this very cool medal. And then we went to the station. I just want to take a quick break to say here that the volunteers and the people running who I interacted with were just so nice. I had a really difficult experience because I was injured, but I think if someone was running this as their first race or their millionth race, they would have a good experience. The only downside for me was the laps and people running from behind you all the time if you're not one of the much faster runners, but that is just the nature of the course. Throughout the race, I had volunteers cheering me on from the sides, telling me to keep going, other racers giving me high fives and cheering me on. The volunteer who ran with me at the end, I also saw him a few times during the race, and it was just a really good and motivating atmosphere, as good as it could be. Anyways, afterwards, my entire body hurt. I was so sore. I actually dread to think of what my posture must have looked like when I was running. It must have been so bad because I was just focused on keeping moving through the limping and just putting one foot in front of the other. We brought a change of clothes for me to put on after the race. I always get so shivery after runs, and I'm pretty sure it was into the -degrees on that day. It was really cold. Because we had a long journey home and I was really tired, we didn't really do much. Just ate a burger in the station and then went home. I shuffled slowly on the walk back home and then I ate all the stuff that they gave me because I was feeling a lot less sick at that point. So yeah, that was my experience running my long-awaited first half marathon. I felt so proud of myself, and I still feel really proud of myself because it was just really taxing mentally and physically, and I still did it like I set out to do. I'm really relieved to finally be done and just so grateful for all the support that I've received over the past few months. And now it's time for the grand total of how much money I raised. Drum roll please. Over the course of my training, I raised £3,000 £273 to go towards my top surgery. I feel like I can't say enough how happy I am and how thankful I am. It was really, really hard to ask for help and to do the runs and then to run the race. But it's just been so rewarding to have so many people care in this way and to have so many people support me in this way. So thank you so much, guys. Since I have less than £5,000 to reach my goal, I'm still going to be asking for donations. And I can't lie, I'm nervous to go back to posting my link and asking for help in such a barefaced way. Again, I might do another fundraiser just to make it easier for me. And I've been toying with the idea of putting one of my hand knit pieces for raffle. The idea is still in its infancy and I'm still not 100% sold, but I just wanted to get you guys' opinions on it. I'm thinking of having the tickets be £5 and to just have the sale go on for quite a while to make sure that I sell enough tickets. As you guys may know, all of my jumpers are worth over £1,000. So the one thing that does worry me is if not enough tickets are sold, because in that case I would have to cancel it and refund, and I just don't know. It's a bit risky. But if enough people are interested, that's something I definitely want to do. Here are all the jumpers and vests that I've made that are still available, including the new one that I finished this week / last week. I haven't picked one yet, so if you'd like to participate, let me know which piece you would be interested in. Also, if you have any other ideas of how I could fundraise, please let me know. Again, thank you so much to everyone who has supported me on this journey. It's helped me with getting closer to my top surgery and also with getting this cool medal. My link is down below if you guys would like to donate, and I will see you in my next video. Bye.